hello, 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 and welcome back today. Just getting some things set up here when we get ready. Hey, Raceroni, Asian Love Potato, Joe Henke, and Legendary K4. Thank you for showing up and saying hey in the chat this morning. Getting started a little earlier than normal today. And go ahead and switch over. I've been working on some things at the shop down here. Most notably the lighting. I installed a couple of new light bulbs, and there was something I was actually planning on showing you, and I thought it had it right here in front of me, but I apparently moved it because I wanted to show you something that I found. So hang on. Now here's one of them. So check this thing out. I'll put you on the overhead cam so you can look at it. So this is what we may call an old-fashioned, what would you call it? Fire hazard, probably, that I have here. Just making sure that that camera is going to be turned on. Yep, there we go. Let's check this out. This is it. When I moved into this house, this is my grandfather's old house, and I've been renting it for a while. Hey, Lucas. And one of the things that I had in all my light sockets down here in the basement were these old contraptions, which you certainly would never find one of these in a store anymore. Because just look at how you plug this into the light socket, and then it gives you these ungrounded 120 volt or 125 volt 660 watt plugins on the side of this, and then you still put your light bulb here, and then you could use the light bulb, you know, from this, turn it on and off, but keep the power rolling through these plugs. So I finally just have removed all these and installed just some LED lights, which are actually really bright and seem to be looking pretty good so far for the start. I just thought I'd show you these interesting contraptions. You'll never see these nasty little things again, and hopefully you won't, because these would be easy to overload and be unsafe. No grounding there, depending on what you're trying to do. I mean, you could plug the wrong thing into there, cause a house fire. So there's our little retro random tech here for the day. And so, hey, let's see who we've got here. We've got Lucas Campos, I think that's right. Abe's Game and Skates, good to see you again. Roy Driver, thank you for coming. JJ. Hey, thanks. Thanks from all over the world. We got Roy coming from Australia. JJ is in the Netherlands. That's the thing about this random time I stream, is there's always a chance that other people in different time zones and all over the world will at least have a chance to tune in. Thanks for dropping by. If you guys enjoy the streams, do me a favor, hit the like button. That way we can expand the reach and the audience size here eventually, you know, get some more CRT fanatics with the opportunity to see what we're working on here. So what we have back today is we're still working on our PVM 14L2. This is from yesterday's stream, and there we go. Howdy, Tyson 505. So yesterday in the stream, we opened it up and took out the chassis and this other board, the input board, and we serviced them with a cap kit. Pretty small cap kit, only 12 caps, but it was, you know, not the easiest cap kit to work with. But that's done. I already went ahead off camera and just last night I took some time, cleaned out the inside of here where the tube is and everything. I already cleaned it and then reinstalled everything. And the last thing, if you remember, we didn't have time to finish up this, which would normally be on the back there. This is our neck board. So that's what we're going to be doing most of the work on today. Hello, One Phoenix Fire from South Africa. Thank you. Thank you for coming. And again, so that's what we're going to work on first off, is we need to finish working on this little board here, the neck board, and we'll get it serviced, we'll get it cleaned, back on the tube, and we'll test it. Hopefully everything will go well. And then once that's done, we can do the more interesting and fun thing later on, which will be calibrate it. I do have my in-laws, well, my mother-in-law, she's coming to visit, and she'll be here in about 2 hours' time. So as usual, I do have a time limit. But it's okay. I actually like my mother-in-law. She's a very sweet lady. So that's always a blessing, you know. Mainly, our big concern with our C board will be solder integrity, honestly. Especially on this board. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. And this doesn't have really the best solder. There was something about the way they were mixing solder, I feel like, in the mid and early 2000s that I don't know whether they were trying to play with some different ingredients, but we seem to be running into an issue where the solder from this time period on electronics and televisions and monitors seems to be more questionable than even the capacitors. If you just take a look at these capacitors, I mean, these are beautiful capacitors on this. Check them out. They are 250 volt, 47 microfarad. And these are like the highest quality Nishikans that were made back in the early and mid 2000s. They still make these that look like this mostly. And so we have those two capacitors right there. Yeah, they're trying to switch to lead-free, and sometimes when you go all lead-free, it really is a pain. Hey, Sterling. Thanks for showing up today, man. Jeff Lang, thank you for coming in. We have one other capacitor here, but it's also a nice capacitor if you just looked at it. I mean, it's 85 degrees. This one's a common one. So it's, but if you just look at, let me see. I believe I have like a neck board handy from another Sony, a different time period. All right, here's a fun comparison, right? So this is the neck board from this 14L2. Again, you manufactured right in the middle of 2000s. This is a board from a 1340 series, I believe 42. I'm not completely sure. It could be a 43, but I believe it's the 42, somewhere around there. It's definitely a board that would have been made 10 years before this board. Neither have been serviced, but it's probably going to be difficult to see on the camera, but I'll try to see if I can show you. This is the older board. Just look at the way the solder, like on the neck, the tube, still glossy a little bit. I mean, without even being cleaned, like you can see dust. And if I cleaned it, it would look really nice. And these boards are extremely durable. But then you have this more modern one, and you'll just notice the solder. Look how much dull it has a different weird sheen to it. It's definitely a different chemical composition. And I'm trying to get in there and let you see. Maybe you see how it starts to look a little dull, like wearing out. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. and it's hard to see the difference. I don't know if I can get any of these points. Anyway, the older boards look more durable to me. So what we're going to do is we're going to reflow the solder on these transistors or ICs, and then we'll do again the CRT socket, all these components down in here, anything that's really hot. There's resistors, these big resistors right here will reflow pretty much, I mean, almost everything. And we'll just do that, and we'll see how this solder reacts as we do that. Right, now that would be a good idea. Maybe I can get a cheap microscopic, or I've been thinking about that, adding, Sterling was saying you can see them good under a microscope. Maybe we can add a USB microscope to the show coming soon, and then we can take a better look at what you're actually talking about under the microscope. That would be a fun thing to do. So great idea. I actually don't own one of those yet, so if anyone has a recommendation, you can send it to me on Twitter or something, some other DM, because you're not allowed to post links apparently in like chats for YouTube normally. So yeah, it just doesn't mix, of course, as well, but you know you're getting fresh solder in there. Yeah, send me a link of what you've been using if you like it, Sterling. I'll try it out. You don't want to hold down your heat too long on this board, specifically like this part, because if you do, obviously that heat's going to transfer into that plastic area, and you can actually melt that CRT socket, the plastic on there, if you just sit here and concentrate on trying to reflow this solder to where it's beautiful. Again, we just want to make sure it's got a good connection and a good fresh layer of solder on it. Start mixing it, and you'll hear it like kind of sound like a Rice Krispies cereal when it gets in the milk. It starts to crackle and pop. You're remixing that solder. Now, if this was like, I mean, you could say you should go further and even just remove this old solder, but that would be a lot more work. I don't think that's always necessary. All right. Most of that stuff right there is reflowed, all the points there. You can move up towards this part of the board. Let's see. We can't get a little closer here. I'm gonna, while I do this, let's see if I can't. If I can't get some decent background, just very light background music. And because there's not a, I'm not going to do it too loud. This iron is so what my iron is running at right now is pretty much 750. I know it tends to be hot most of the time. That's pretty much a good temperature though. I don't burn things with this iron at 750. and it seems to do the job 99% of the time. 750 Fahrenheit, and here you go. I'll give you a quick look at the solder setup. All right, I hope that will work. Do you see that right there? I know it's sideways and looks silly, but that is the FX 951. It's grounded. It's got this wonderful, comfortable wand, and programmable and everything. Nice and safe. And this is what I use. It goes into sleep mode when you put it down, and it comes right back to life. So that's I bought that one, finally upgraded from the cheap old Hacko, which I still have here because it's handy to use on the road, I'd say, and like in other situations when I'm traveling or need something up in another location. I use the older, smaller one, the like 888D or whatever it is, the one that's like $90. I used that one for a long time, and if you run that, you get used to your temperatures, keep that clean, get the right tips on there, and you can run that one at 700 to 750 and do just about anything. This one just, I don't know, I love the way it feels and works. Yeah, I tend to, it's like, I think it's just programmed here to come at 750. And I don't even know, okay. Well, like, it's got, you've got to get a certain way. I can't even remember how to, now I'm going to mess it all up probably. Anyway, it's not even that easy to turn down the temperature. That's another thing. Yeah, when you're working on like this kind of equipment, it pays. Like when you're working on boards and you want to keep them nice and you don't want to ever burn anything, getting the right tools can be crucial. Now I know people can do just as good a work, of course, like with the setup that Voltar has and recommends, but I've actually seen like a higher end one than this that the guy iFix Retro uses, and it's a newer one, and it looks really nice. But again, these are like, then you're getting into, because this one's not cheap. I can't remember how much it is, but you can look it up online. But once you go past this one, you're getting up into like the four digit solder stations, like $1,000 of above for stuff. James said 750 is speed running. It's a good one. Hey Don Honk, yeah. Plus it's nice if you like the tools and you have, for me, I have to have good tools. I mean, it's part of this business, so it benefits me to have good tools also. I don't really care about some things to reflow solder on, and sometimes I accidentally do that and it falls out. Like there's a couple test points usually on these boards, maybe not on this one, but the other thing, you have to watch these connectors and any of the like ground connectors here. Jeff asked if this one will be for sale. Potentially. There's a guy on Patreon who basically has first dibs on it, and so if he says no, then I will list it on Patreon, but this person has the first say at it because they've been kind of waiting and asked about it. Generally speaking, I will have like one of these style PVMs available every month on there. Sometimes people ask ahead of time and they just reserve them. Other times I'll have a couple months, like last month I had actually two available at once that were sitting there. Nobody bought them for a couple weeks, and then first one sold, and I think the second one's it's got somebody who said they're buying it. If they pick it up Friday, it'll be sold. And those are both the ones we did on stream before this one. It was a 14M2 MDU and a 14M2U. And if you ever want to go back and watch any of those episodes and see those monitors, those live streams are still up. If you just go to the live tab on the channel, Retro Tech on YouTube, you can find those and watch those playbacks if you're interested in either of those CRTs. Both of them had live streams done on them. Same thing with this one. And it's a little snap, crackle, pop right there. And so I don't know. What have you guys been thinking? I've really been enjoying coming in and kind of just doing this on the stream. Sterling, actually, there was nothing officially wrong with this CRT to begin with. What I've been doing is just preventative maintenance. There's this kit that I have here, so there's nothing wrong with it. This is the ideal restoration, really, most of the time. I find a monitor that's in good shape and I go through and service it with these cap kits, and also do things like reflow the solder, check out the rest of the board, just make sure that it's good, not only now, but I can try to prevent something really from happening, at least in the next 5 to 10 years for the most part, if you use it safely. And there's certain things obviously I can't control, but I can give these the best chance to go on and lead productive lives after they leave my shop. So I hope that explains it a little bit better. Like, the vast majority of the work I do is doing this kind of stuff, where I go in and work for hours on restoring boards in this fashion, and the fashion that you've seen on the other episodes, where just getting it ready to reuse. And it's more economical to do that than try to... If you're bringing a CRT and you don't know what's wrong with it, which I have some episodes coming up about that, some of those times those things are unsavable. Or not unsavable, but it's like all of a sudden they become parts monitors. I can't tell you how many of the best CRTs in the world I have up in the boneyard right now that are just, they don't have enough tubes for them. We don't have tubes anymore. We can't find the tubes to replace them with. All right, that's all. This one is a Save on Pack kit. Hey, thanks, Race. I'm glad you've been doing it. I mean, this is the kind of thing I do. I mean, you know, if you go back and watch the videos, you'll see. I mean, this one was one I bought on eBay and imported. I think it's like the video's entitled, the video's titled like the last CRT Sony made, or the last PVM or something. The last Pro CRT PVM that they made. So this would be something, these caps should be good. You should not have to do this for another 10 years. Probably. Not with these parts. If you had some other issue, there's still obviously a lot of things that could happen from a voltage short or another part going bad, but these are the ones that most of this information is coming from Save on Pat and other Sony techs and data, like documentation, rumors, common sense. I don't know, because there's a lot of times where I'll change some of his his kits to add more capacitors to the kit, possibly sometimes. All right. Definitely don't want. No, I always end up with that. Go. Jeff asked what CRTs I personally use. Well, I always swap that up. I try to use the ones that I'm working on. I try to just test them. That keeps it fun for me. The ones I do have in my like living room area, or my hangout area on the other side here, I have a, let's see, what have I got in there? I've got a JVC D series 20-inch that was a donation of an awesome guy who's been a supporter of the channel for a long time, named Ramir, and he donated it, and I really like it. I got an N64 hooked up in there most of the time on that, and then I would throw other retro consoles on that pretty easily if I need to. And then I've got my, right next to that, I have my, it's got like a RCA tube, or yeah, just a standard RCA style television tube, but it's a 27-inch arcade monitor in my Neo Geo NVS machine. So that's in there also, and I use that one probably the most of any CRT in there. And then I have a Sony GDM C520, which is basically the 4x3 PC monitor that's the PC monitor version, or 4x3 version of the FW900. Because I don't have a working FW900. I don't have that. But I do have the other one is really nice. That's probably my favorite Underdog CRT is that one. And then back here in storage, I have tons of 14-inch CRTs that I pull out and use from time to time, depending on what I'm doing. I have a 14-inch PVM that's once I service them, I rotate them out on that medical cart, which people have seen. No, I do still have that, but I need to do a couple of more tests, but there's like a 95% chance that Sony FW900 has a bad tube in it that I have, so I don't have it. It's not going to be working, but don't worry, because I'm supposed to have a FW900 coming to the shop soon that does work. It's getting a preventive maintenance done like this. Now this one isn't as bad. Sometimes you get in here and a monitor's still working, and they look way worse. You might have bad caps, you might have dirt build up. But thanks for the questions. Hey, PO17, welcome. Oh, no, yeah, not GVM. GDM, yeah, sorry if it sounded like that. It's a GDM. So that's in there. And I have a Dreamcast, of course, hooked up to that. And what else is hooked up to it? The GBS control, the GBS all-in-one converter. So that's in there. And then the big TV in that room is an early, it's from 2007, I want to say, an early Hitachi 1080p plasma. And I actually bought that brand new. Paid like $3,000 for that thing back in 2007. And it's an awesome TV. It does so many different things because it's still got a lot of analog support, low lag, Very great screen. I've taken care of it, so it's lasted a long time. And that's it for the ones that stay there all the time. Anything else comes and goes. I don't really have other things in there besides that. I do have some other monitors, CRTs I want to get and incorporate into the bigger setups, but or the big setup. But oh man, it's every time. It's like I got a 27-inch I got off the curb that I absolutely love. It's an old wood grain RCA, and I'd love to get it down here, but I don't want to think about moving it back and forth up and down the stairs. And I've just been doing work on all these other smaller monitors to keep myself really from having to do it. Okay. So there's really no harm in, again, touching up a lot of this. Just like the one capacitor right here will be pulling. There's some parts sometimes listed on these cap kits and they're not actually on the board. So I was telling everybody last, I don't know, stream or two about going to house auctions. I mentioned this. It might have been 2 streams ago. I've been going to a lot of these home auctions, you know. A lot of times they're just absolute filthy, terrible looking homes, and but sometimes there's some really cool houses, of course. And just like anything, you hope you're going to find a deal, which it's hard to tell because it's... I don't know if anybody's familiar with the movie The Money Pit with... what was that? That's an old Tom Hanks movie. Anyway, that's the situation I'm afraid of with these houses. Like this one I'm looking at, the auction ends tomorrow. The house is just in the most amazing part of the city I live in. And beautiful style old home, but it literally, I mean, it needs a ton of work. You could live in it in its current state, right? But I don't know. And then it's on auction, so like at the last minute, somebody will come in and it'll go up $100,000 or more. I think it's at about 200,000 right now. But I've been going to a lot of these auctions just to see. I'm actually doing that more than just going at looking to regular real estate. And from what I can tell, most of the time things do not necessarily sell for less at auction. I've seen sometimes where a piece of property sells for more at an auction. Quite often. It's crazy, right? You're like, if this was at the normal market, it wouldn't sell for that much. People get in these bidding frenzies. It really does happen. So what would that be? You think that would make an interesting concept for like a YouTube channel? Property tours like that, and then go into the auction, or seeing how much the property sells for. I didn't know if that would be anything that anybody would think was cool, or if it's just me. Oh yeah, it's really hard all over. Hard all over to find real estate right now. Yeah, when it gets... Yeah, there's some great stuff in the Money Pit. If you've not seen that movie, do yourself a favor and see it. But most people probably have seen it. If you haven't seen it in a while, it's worth a good rewatch. But that's kind of, you know, I could just see, you know, you buy a house for probably end up being like 400 grand for this place. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe it might even go like four. Like, here's the way this works. Most of these auctions, whatever the final price is, you have to know how this works. Most of the time, you're having to pay 10% buyer's fee to the auctioneer. So if you win the auction, you don't just pay your winning bid, you pay that bid, and you pay 10% to the auctioneer. So when that house sells for $400,000 on the auction block, it actually sells for $440,000 because you have to pay $10,000 or 10%, sorry, $40,000 to the auction. Whoa, company. Okay, so you've done that. But the thing is, when you buy a property at auction, you're buying it as is. So your auction, here's the only way out you've got. If you win the auction and for whatever reason you don't close, you get like, it depends. Some of these will give you 45 days. Some will give you up to 60 days to close. What you do is, if you win the auction, you put $10,000 and you pay that right away within the first 24 hours of winning the auction. And then you have the close time to close it, however many days that is. The only thing you can do is you can lose that 10 grand, right? You can say, I'm pulling out of this deal, and you lose that 10 grand that you paid. Literally just throw it away. And then you lose the property, okay? So it's kind of high stakes. If you're trying to get like a loan on it, it adds a layer of things, because you're like, the house I looked at, it had like bees in the wall, you know, things that beehive in one of the walls. Like there hadn't been people in these houses for a while, you know? Half the house hadn't been lived in. They're big houses, like, don't get me wrong. So, but you're not going to get a normal mortgage. I mean, you have to put down a bunch of cash with it, probably. Plus, interest rates are such trash right now, so they probably will be for a while. So I'm not relying on that to go down anytime soon. Again, it's more like trying to just wait out the housing prices, which I don't know if that's even going to make any difference. Or is it just wait till you have a very large amount of money, so you're not borrowing it as much? I think that's about the best thing to do right now. But anyway, that's just like some fun things I've been looking at. I think it's always interesting to go and just look at some of these houses that are in unbelievably... You used to... Like when I bought my first house, which I'm renting where I'm at now. But when I bought my first house, I remember going and being so nitpicky and like... I bought like a house that was brand new, because I didn't want to deal with anything. And now I'm like looking at things the exact opposite way. I want to find something that's a decent bargain, that's got so much potential that I could go in and like invest into and hopefully turn into something that's either beautiful or something I really want to live in. But then, I don't know. It's such a big purchase, you know, and to think about going into that amount of debt again, even though it is a home debt, always makes my anxiety go up, which I think is normal. Anytime you think about taking on large amounts of debt. especially for like the time period. Even if you do a preferred mortgage, that's still 15 years that you're, you know, guaranteed to pay into something. It's just we have the strange phenomenon in our generation where property continues to go up in value. Like the house I bought that I used to live in, where you can go back and watch the original episodes of Retro Tech, where everything started. I bought that house and lived in it for like 13 years, maybe 14. And the house price doubled, you know, the value. And then I don't know how much it's gone up since then. That's sure it has. That was a couple years ago when I sold it. In some of these markets, the housing prices are not going down. And I can tell you why. It's because there's not enough inventory. There's not enough people selling homes right now. Because they don't, you know, people are just selling their home right now because they have a low interest rate. They can't go get a new loan for cheaper, so they're not going to move. They're going to stay in their house for longer periods of time. So there's less just movement like that. There's less buyers, the higher interest rates. And so forth. So at the same time, the problem is these certain homes go on the market and they're selling immediately now. Over asking price again. At least that's what's happening in my area. Because I will go look at houses, I'll call realtors when they come on the market. And I've constantly been getting told that, and it does happen, you can check it yourself on Zillow and these other websites, that they're getting 10% above asking price even still. And then I wonder, you know, like, you used to feel like it was such a huge deal to own a home, and now the way things are, I don't know, things feel less obtainable, and it's like, at least in certain areas, and now I'm wondering if just moving a little bit into the country isn't the right move too, if I need to get a house right away or a bigger place or something. Because I've found some really nice houses and things outside of the big city, which is not a big city, but the city area I live in. Excuse me, I just have some allergies. That are still reasonably priced. Of course, the thing about that is you buy it and you're not gonna make your money back. It's hard to think of certain ways to make your money back off that property. You make, you know, there's a reason it doesn't sell as fast. The prices are lower. And so you know that you're not in like the hot area. Like, again, it has to be a hot market kind of, or a place people want to move to or have a reason to move to. There's a bunch of small towns in Virginia that are like out of the way, and there's towns there where there's, you know, homes that have been there a long time, but there's no like business there to really support people staying there too much. Or like you would drive from another area that you worked at to live there. Some people don't want to do that. But yeah, I found another piece of property, small lot. It's on like a historic highway, right? Runs parallel to the interstate. One of the big interstates. And it is on a river. Now it's got, the backyard is not really a backyard. It's like a cliff almost towards this river. But it has a little front yard. And it's in one of these old school towns. But and it's a 2,000 square foot house. It needs some work. But it was only, it's like $200,000. And I'm just thinking, that sounds almost too good to be true for 2023. So I don't know. I'm going to go check it out in person. It's been on the market for a long time. But again, I think it's because it's in one of these little towns that people are not, there's no like it's in between the tourist places, right? There's no real tourist attraction in these towns. There's no reason, unless you're from there, to really go there. It's an interesting concept. Unless you're like a farmer or have like a farm, there are some farm businesses in there. So but that's not a huge, draw. It's not like there's any shopping or anything you can do. Maybe antique shopping. All right. Well, that looks pretty good. All right, guys. Sorry to go off on that silly tangent for a little bit on real estate and whatever. But that should be good for the reflowing that solder. There's one capacitor we're going to pull. Looks like. And change. I've already recleaned all my tools last night too. So we didn't have to worry about that. And we'll pull this, exchange this capacitor, and then clean this board. Because I still, that doesn't look too bad, but there is some flux residue. See how you get that like golden brownish stuff? You can see it more on the white around there. So we're gonna remove this little guy. This is a 50 volt 100 C705. Thankfully, this board's a little bit nicer to work on than the other board we had yesterday. That just fell right out. Okay, this is the capacitor. It's probably fine, but it is an 85-degree capacitor, so we're going to upgrade that and install a 105-degree capacitor here. And if you look at these other two, see, I don't actually have these here. And they're not even, when I ordered the kit, right, it came with these parts. So the one I just pulled is C705, which is down here. But it says 726 and 733. But if I look over here, they don't even have, we don't have those capacitors on this board. There's just 705. Now there are 713 and 717, and those are not on that list. So I guess it's one of those things where it doesn't have all the parts, and maybe there's earlier revisions. But these are those big capacitors, so they're not in the kit. We're really just changing the one capacitor today on here. And let's just use our fun tool here for it. We'll give our We'll add some hip action, increase the hip size of our capacitor here. Just make sure you put it in the right way. That's what she said. And be able to just take that, set my iron on it, let it get warmed up. Take my left hand, do that little number, hold it in place. There we go. Wonderful. Let's get that plus side cleaned up. There we go. Oh goodness. There we go. See, I like that little tool because it makes it look cool, right? Look, give our parts a little bit of leg action right there for the hole. You know, you do the other direction if you need to, but that's it. Turn off this equipment, get it out of the way, and we can pour some alcohol, but not the drinking type, because it's only Tuesday. All right, let's see here. We need to get the brush kit and alcohol. That's right. Right. Brush kit, alcohol. And why not a couple of wipes of Bounty? So, well, not really Bounty, the knockoff stuff, you know. All right. Things are here. We are going to bust out Mr. Minion brush. For those of you who are return viewers, you will remember Mr. Minion. He gets in all the deep crevices. For the most part, the first thing I'm going to do is just kind of douse some of this board in this isopropyl alcohol. And then take Mr. Minion here and just let him freely brush over this, let that alcohol kind of work in there. And that alcohol then runs off the edge down here, of course, and onto our paper towel. And then I'll show you why that really is even significant at all here in a second. So then I can take this, which you see looks still pretty clean. I like to take that alcohol soaked towel, flip it over, let Mr. Minion rub the board through the towel. And just like that, Bob is getting the job done. Or Kevin, whichever minion is your favorite. Look at that. See that shading? Look at how that's just this one area. Look at the coloring there. You got a nice yellow shade of flux. And this will look powdery in a minute, but for the most part, that looks pretty good. And I'll show you how we'll touch all this up at the end here. Same thing over here. Maybe we should have done is use the other paper towel since we have two of them. And we'll just work our way down, right? That's what we got to do because that stuff's traveling down. So we'll start up these places we haven't gotten yet. And we are getting some of that on our brush. That's okay. Continue to paint some happy little alcohol on there. Do the same procedure over here. Might be a little trickier, but I have to punch some holes in the towels. That's okay. Yes, oh yes. This is not the I don't know. I mean, I'd love to hear what other people do for cleaning too, but it's something that I just started doing years ago, and I don't know that there's probably, like, I've tried other cleaners that are more effective at cleaning flux, but the problem with them is, wow, I mean, my fingers look bad and hands. I think we had a conversation. My hands look bad enough as it is. We talked about that before, without having to add extra insult to injury by using those harsh chemicals, because those really eat up your skin. So it's kind of a double-edged sword if you use it. Coming on in 1 hour. That's okay. So now that this is dried, I'm taking my other brush, my safe brush. Just give that a good rub. Make sure everything's nice and dry and polished, pretty much. It's kind of what we're doing. Giving that old shoe shine. Hey, get rhythm. When you get the blues, come on, get rhythm. When you get the blues, it only takes a dime, just a nickel a shoe. Does $1 million worth of good for you. Get rhythm. When you get the blues. Anybody know who sings that song? Probably a terrible rendition. It's good old Johnny Cash, the Man in Black. Sang that song back in 1960 something, I think. I don't know. Looking good, looking good. Let me get my vac. Vac, it's a opposite of that. Can I put the music back on? Yeah, it's probably fine. Let me go pull up the playlist here and see what we got. See, I need to go and just download even more. I'm going to put a big playlist on here, and then we'll just hit the randomizer. Again, it's all just background music, okay? This one's called Endless Winter, so I'm guessing it's jazz. Johnny Cash is the legend. He was from my hometown. Right, well, not here. This hometown that I moved back to. The hometown I lived in Tennessee. A place called Hendersonville. He lived right there on the lake. And lived on the lake, and he passed away, sold his property to the Bee Gees. One of the Bee Gees. And be damned if that Bee Gee didn't burn the house down. So now, no one never rebuilt it. So it's just like a tomb or mausoleum in the remembrance of Johnny Cash, this house he used to live in that was beautiful on the lake. And fire, insurance claim, and all of a sudden, there was no more Johnny Cash's house. All right. Let me do that a couple more times. And then Ooh, sorry about that. I probably should have turned the microphone off before I did that. Could save you guys some hearing. Oh. All right. I think we're ready to reinstall this board just about. There's this piece of plastic that can go back over top of our board here. Take yet another brush and make sure that everything's good. Last visual inspection of everything. Make sure, yep, everything's installed correctly. And just look at and make sure that we didn't bridge anything accidentally. Everything is looking good, right? Okay. Still feel a little bit of alcohol coming out of it, so I'm gonna try. Let me turn down my microphone. Do this. The microphone's got a filter on it that shouldn't pick up sounds like that, so that's maybe why you're not hearing it, Jeff. That's pretty interesting. So, if you're not hearing it, then that filter's actually kind of working. Maybe if I talk at the same time as the filter's going, it will. So, good news is we're about to finally plug this thing in. Thanks everybody for showing up today. If you're coming in late, or if you're wondering what we're doing, we're working on the neck board, finishing it up from a Sony PVM restoration. And it's a 14L2 PVM. And we've already, the funny thing is we've already serviced the main deflection board and power areas. We do not know. We do not know if we did everything right, because I mean, I haven't tested all this stuff. So, but that's it for the capacitors and the board rework. So now we can actually get to the reinstalling it and look at the calibration stuff. This is actually an interesting monitor. It's got a unique calibration system that it mirrors more of the BVM style. You could not. You have to make sure things are compatible there, Wobble. I mean, I'm not sure. There's probably some that are compatible, but most of the time, no. You can use PVM boards between PVMs. All right, let me just remove some stuff out of the way so we don't have an accident. And we'll give this board a little more time to dry out. And we can put away the brush, the minion brush, and put away our alcohol. It wasn't a very big cleanup. But I do think I made that small little job probably as long as possible. I've not worked on any SSMs, I don't think. Most of the stuff I've been working on is, you know, the pretty common television sets. I've been having fun working on different things that are not just PVMs. And I know probably a bunch of you've noticed that there's the channel. We kind of go through a metamorphosis a little bit, where we're focusing on just more than, you know, being worried about getting out videos all the time. That rather than doing that, I'm enjoying streaming on what I'm actually working on, which is more stuff like this, and actually been pretty good mix up of things we've been able to work on if you go back in the last couple of months as we've been doing this stream. And then when there's something even cooler, then I can make a video and try to make it a really good video, like the last one I keep referring to, the Toshiba one. And I mean, I will admit, it's when I do that, I don't have the time to put out like constant videos that are productions, but at the same time, I'm getting to interact with everybody, which I love, and the good videos that come out are doing well, so I'm happy with the way it's actually been going with it. But that's the way, you know, it gives me an opportunity to, when I do see these CRTs that I want to work on. I would love to work on an IR2 or LR2. I've got some ideas. I'm gonna reconnect everything. It's a pretty easy neck board to connect here. Make sure that my microphone's at least facing me. Of course, I already did something wrong. And it's just that simple. There's a neck. Screw in the neck. Screw in the neck. Right here. I don't know if you can see the screw in the neck right here. So yeah, I gotta screw that a little bit. All right. It's just that simple. Reinstalling the neck board. And I've already gone ahead and hooked up just about everything I need here. Yeah, and I mean, it does save when doing these videos. I'm not gonna basically deny this. I'm not the world's best video editor. I haven't had any real training on that besides what I've watched on YouTube videos, tutorials from people I know and respect what they've done in their work. But most of that stuff is something I was never even considering doing. So you're right, it is when you get to have a show like this, it's much more interesting. So hopefully we'll keep growing the audience, things keep having more fun. I love when there's more interaction, and when everybody is, you know, talking and stuff between each other is even cooler too. Right, we're gonna plug it in first, right? And we're using Super Nintendo still. At least for calibration stuff for right now. Everything should be good. Just looking around here. And maybe give our camera a little space and give it the blow up test, right? Now, camera freeze here real quick. Just so you can tell, look how safety conscious I am. I have a nice, unused, perfectly good fire extinguisher right here in case something happens. That's not intentional, but there's actually, look at this, a second fire extinguisher that's twice as big over here. So don't you worry about a fire hazard here. I mean, that's cool. Look at that. Double safety, baby. Right there, 2 different fire extinguishers. I'm always ready. Always ready. SNES is a really great version of this 240p test suite, at least in my opinion. All right. First thing we're going to do is make sure that I have power turned on to the, surge protector. That might save us a little bit of trouble. And then I like to power on the Super Nintendo, which has the little LED modification in under the switch, so I can tell it's getting power. All right, here we go. There's the power indicator down here. Lit up green. Oh, and there's the delay. Oh, I feel the static. I heard the dong of the... Oh yeah, there we go. Coming alive to you folks. So I heard the dong of the degausseur, and we have done it. So what we need to do is I need to get the camera set up correctly. Let me get the light. I think it'll help if I take a little light off the screen. Ooh, I've got extra lighting in here today, and it's making it look a little different. But I have to be able to reach the buttons, so I need to kind of maneuver things a little bit around and make this work for everybody. So let's try to see if we can't do that now. Oh yeah, this should be a little bit. Yeah, in case the first fire extinguisher catches fire. Asian love potato. In case the first one catches fire, I've always got the second one. To back it up. Yeah, I love a good 14-inch PVM. This one looks really good. I think we could... It looks like we could do some adjustments. Maybe... Oh, yeah. I think our convergence, like our horizontal convergence, could use a little bit of help. But I'm going to turn down the brightness a bit, just because it makes it look better on the screen. Contrast down a little bit. But we do have all our colors, so that's all really good. So let's go ahead and start the software. Yeah, I can see a little convergence on the edge here. Ooh, oh, I forgot. Thankfully, hang on. Let me change the settings on our lovely camera here, because we do not need to have that trying to do autofocus, because then it will give you guys a headache. So just give me one moment here. I'll turn the camera autofocus off, and I'll get that kind of lined up. Let's see here. Live focus adjustment. There we go. I think that looks pretty good. There we go. Leave it there. Get all that set up for everybody nicely. And let me turn off one of these lights. Oh yeah. Let's get the mood set a little bit, everybody. Let's get that mood set. All right. So we want to go and start off with the 240p test suite. We may have to back up a little bit. And there we go. You're going to see that strobing a little bit, because even with everything correct, still act up a little bit. Let me get this a little bit more centered. And we're going to go to test patterns. And the first thing I want to do, and we might have to turn the lights like all the way off for this, is go to the monoscope, turn it down a little bit, And the most important thing I've got to get started with is the adjustment on convergence. So I'm going to zoom in here, and this is going to be a crazy process for us today, everybody. So you just have to bear with me a little bit, because we're going to have to really concentrate on keeping the camera image good, as well as moving it around. So let me see. There we go. This ain't the kind of stuff you see on normal television, you know, for a reason. And we're gonna look at kind of, you see how we have like a lot of separation here, red, green, and blue. And what we need to do is actually spin something to change that. And I actually forgot to plug in another camera here, unbelievably so. But what I can do is I'll swing around the main camera. I think I can do that and show you what I'm doing. All right, let me get some stuff out of the way. You can kind of see a better image of me, okay? Yeah, this is an H-stat adjustment, for sure. All right, thankfully Sony has an adjustment on the neck board for horizontal static convergence, and it's a potentiometer. It's the one that's encased in that gray piece of plastic that you saw me put together at the very last step. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to stick my hand in this live set and scare everybody. But we're going to try to clean up this convergence a little bit. We'll go a little bit wide, and then we'll come back and just see what we can do with this adjustment. First, I'm going to turn it counterclockwise. See how that looks? That's not better. Turning it back clockwise. That seems to be pretty good. No, let's see. Let me take a closer look. I definitely feel like that's an improvement along this side. It was probably just knocked a little bit out of calibration when we serviced the neck board. That's very possible. All right, just gonna turn. I'm gonna actually turn my microphone up so you can hear me better from farther away. That's the one thing we can do back there. The next thing we're gonna check out is focus, and what we're doing on focus is we're also looking again at the neck board. And there's another potentiometer down there. There's a way to get to it from the back. So you have a screen potentiometer and then what should be a focus potentiometer. Or, no, that doesn't say focus on it. Let me see what that says. So as I said, this is a different monitor than the other ones I've worked on. So let's see what that potentiometer says. Oh, it does say focus. So this is interesting. This is not usually the case. You usually only get focus adjustments and G2 or screen brightness adjustments on the neck board or the flyback. This has a potentiometer on each. So I think that for this adjustment, we're going to do the neck board one because it's just, again, a spin. and the one on the flyback is already set with epoxy, so we can just leave it alone, hopefully. And maybe we can fine tune all this from just that one single potentiometer. We should be able to do that. And that is located right next to that other potentiometer. But don't turn the screen one, because that's just going to cause you brightness issues. You only do that if you have a load burned out tube. So let's spin this counterclockwise. And you see how it just gets way dull looking when you do it and it's out of focus like that. So if you have a tube that's out of focus, you could try to turn the focus potentiometer, and hopefully after servicing the set, you can make it look nice and sharp. And that way you can make the image look a lot sharper, like it does right there. And that's really the majority of the adjustments we're going to do on this set. Not all together, but from like the physical hardware perspective, where if you the rest of the settings for this are mostly menu based things, so we don't have to really get behind there. Now, if I back our view out just a little bit, maybe, and get you to look at the overall screen a little bit better. We are fortunate on this one to have a pretty much level screen, meaning, well, we probably could try and lean that a little bit. Like this yoke needs to spin a little bit to the left. Not much. That's a little overcorrection. Something like that. Just spin that yoke a little bit. I'm going to retighten that yoke ring, make sure it's good and tight. There we go. Now we have all the our screen's not so tilted now, but we still have a little bit of convergence issues, and it's unfortunately, I don't know that I'll see, or you'll be able to see that convergence up here. But what I can do is, first off, let me show you what I'm going to do here. I'll take the camera and show you behind here. And that's what I'm going to do. Is I know it's out of focus really, but there's two potentiometers in the back of this yoke right here, and we're going to spin. I'm going to stick a screwdriver in there and just turn them, and you'll be able to see, hopefully, some convergence improve on the screen. I'm going to try to get in the corner and see just if we can even make it look like you'll be able to see this. I'm not 100% sure I can get it all done. Maybe if I turn like all the lights out, turn that out, and I don't know. Let's see if I can get this to focus, folks. I appreciate your patience and hanging out here in this live. This is what happens in live video, but we're going to have fun. We're going to have fun and do this. We're going to get it focused. There we go. That's looking better. It's too much. Maybe that looks pretty darn good. Let's see if we can zoom in any. Oh, we're going to zoom in. Look at that. Holy moly. Maybe, just maybe, we can get it to... Gosh, it does not want to focus on that far zoomed. It's so weird. Okay. So... It might just have to be a slight bit out of focus. I might need to zoom out a little more. That shows a weird, almost artifacting. And let's just try it like that. So I'm going to try to make these adjustments with this potentiometer. And we'll see if it shows any different. I mean, that still doesn't look that great. We'll try it out, though. I've got my little screwdriver. Phillips head screwdriver. And the first one says YCH. So Y might be the vertical. See if that does anything as I turn it to the right. Ooh, look at that. See how it does that? If you see, you got to expand it a little bit and try to get those beams out. See if they squash together, you end up with red or blue. I know it's I can't really see it on that screen. I'm sorry. I wish I could. If I get any closer, let's see. Well, you see how the blue comes out, and then it's white, and then it's red. See that red comes through blue. So you got to kind of get it lined up. But you can do that to correct the corner convergence. So of course, doing that makes the bottom convergence look bad. So we almost got to go there. And then let me pull this out a little bit closer. There we go. Maybe that'll help. Let's try the other one. There's another potentiometer. Does the same sort of thing. So you can play with these until you line all the beams up. Okay? It's not going to give you perfect results, but it does help you angle the corners beams better. And you can get better convergence at the edges by just... Okay. By making the combo. And then I have to go back and put that down a little bit. Something like that. And I know that's not... That kind of a demo is not the most ideal. It's not the easiest thing to show on a CRT. But you can use those potentiometers, and you can use other items, obviously, to help with convergence on that screen. I mean, you could use convergence strips if you need to. There's already quite a few convergence strips back there, and I could definitely change those convergence strip alignment. We go back here and fix up our video just a second, and we'll start getting into the service menu a little bit. All right, let's zoom out. There we go. Okay. We are using... Well, you know what? I should probably zoom out. Oh, I'm sorry. I'll zoom out a little more because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing with my hands. So I need you to be able to see the bottom of the screen. So let's... I can't make the camera go real much lower. That's a little better. That'll work right there. So the idea here is to use this tool like we did in the last calibration, but this tool being the 240p test suite. And we've used it. You could go in there and fine tune other things if you wanted to, like we talked about, but this looks good right now. Like if you're just looking at it, we got convergence set, we got our yoke kind of set, we got our focus and our convergence pretty well set. Hey Dell, thanks for stopping by today. So we've got all that. Now we can jump into this menu, and at the same time we've given this set a bit of time to work out any issues it may have with the new capacitors. It looks like it's doing well, so we don't even have anything. So I'm gonna first off switch over to a different input so you can actually see what's coming up on the screen. I have the menu button here pushed. It says nothing for format, no sync, because nothing's on this input line. Okay. This is going to tell us our color temperature. There's a couple different ones we can select from on there later. Our component level, that's the setting. NTSC setup is on 0. There's a couple different selections that can be put on that. And look, right here it says it's set up for component, which is kind of weird because it's actually not in component. At least not on this. Well, see if we go over here to this line, which is RGB, it's set on RGB. The same things are all the same though. But as I have a signal in here, it says RGB, it says 480i, 60. Okay. No sync. Back to an empty one so you can see the background. With this menu status pulled up, we're going to press degauss and enter simultaneously. Bam. We are now in the sub menu. Okay. We're going to go up and down to look at these things. Okay. We can do a lot of things here, right? White balance. This is a sub bright. You can set the sub brightness if you want it to go down. Sub chroma, sub phase. Okay. Same thing, you can decrease and adjust the colors for temperature. Manually adjust them, adjust the gains. Okay. Like, obviously I don't have anything pulled up. But I could use that to adjust my reds, intensities for D93 manually. That's how you get in there. You could even put a color probe up to this, analyze your color bars, and then make adjustments based on what that data tells you. Okay. Sub bright, sub contrast. That's how you change those. This is something you're not really going to get into. Decoder color. CCAM, again, not stuff we're worried about. Deflection is the second setting. This is, of course, something we're worried about, right? I wouldn't really go in here and mess with these. This is under the focus. Don't mess with that. That's high voltage stuff, I believe. I'm not entirely sure about that. I don't know enough about that section to make me dangerous. In a good way. I definitely could be dangerous in a bad way. All right. Under deflection, we have our raster for horizontal and vertical. These are pretty self-explanatory, okay? Horizontal size and horizontal positioning. Horizontal black, left. Again, it's not something you're normally going to adjust, because that's like the black level lines on the outside on the edging of your image. So that's really meant for adjusting that out of picture data, because analog video has more picture data going on above and out to the side of the screen than you and I normally get to see. That's how it's telling it to sync lines. So that black, I believe, is to block that out. Or edge blocking, maybe even image if it's too much on the edges. I'm not I'm just saying don't worry about that too much. All right? We'll just be more concerned with size and position. Same thing. Vertical size, vertical center, vertical blank top. Okay. That's the one you don't really mess with on this adjustment. But vertical size, just make that vertical size bigger. And the centerness moves the vertical center. Pretty easy stuff. Pretty helpful. We'll make some adjustments to these in a minute. Finally, this is where you make the fine-tuning adjustments to the edges. These two are for vertical linearity. I can't remember correction. I can't remember what they call these two things, the S and the C, but those are the two. You can pull up a linearity screen and adjust these two and make sure that you have a linear picture vertically. Look at all these side pin controls. Those are for our pin cushion settings. We have a lot of them. Para control and trapezoid is also going to help us with our screen tilts. As far as like, it used to be called pin amp, pin phase. Well, now they got rid of pin phase and it's just like trapezoid. Or para control is another control. We'll get in here. We'll play with these as soon as I get done going through them. I don't know. So that's it on the deflection under the geometry setting. The option, this would only breed something if we had an option card installed. So after we do that, we're getting pretty close on time. I don't know. I've got about 30 minutes left. I might be able to put an option card in there today. If not, you can test that out by just putting a card in there. This version 1.5, that should be a pretty late version as far as firmware. It's fine. This is how you do a factory reset. I wouldn't do that, but if you're crazy and you want to do that, you can do that under there. You can change sometimes the model type, like 14-inch model type, USA. I don't know. This is just some more information. Nothing really for us. Nothing on there for us either. So really, the only thing we're going to want to be playing with is the horizontal and vertical raster and our geometry settings, okay? And that's it. So let's go back over here. Pull up our task pattern. And it's going to be hard for you to see that menu, right? But if I do something like, let's start with horizontal position. Okay? Up on it, makes it go right, left. You see that? Hold it down, it'll go further right, and we'll lose picture. Okay, look at that. See, look at that. The menu disappeared. That's a problem with this monitor. The menu gets really dicey if the horizontal position is not in like a preferred spot. Look at that. See, look. See how it straightened out the deflection on there? So we really probably need to have it like right here. And I don't know. I'm concerned that this might need like a horizontal phase adjustment to keep that safe. Let me see if there's a potentiometer for that. There usually is. Yeah, there is. I don't know. Let's see what happens if I can even do it. Gosh, I don't want to do it too much and damage it because it can get unstable if you do something like this wrong. But that's a common problem with this monitor is that deflection, all their menus just start disappearing. We're going to try that and see. Hopefully this maintains a stable position. There's a potentiometer in the back. It's right next to the flyback on the main board. And it's not one that you're really supposed to adjust too much. But I feel like you could tell there's something going on with the phase that doesn't agree with the monitor. And that's a common problem for this L2. So hopefully the correction I just did will be fine and stable. We'll monitor it. Literally monitoring the monitor. Okay, so our horizontal center's good. And we're not going to try to go for a huge overscanned image on this tube. So we can use the horizontal and vertical settings to center the image, number one. And number two, we're going to use that to set our aspect ratio. And as I said before, to do this, I'm using just a like Taylor's measuring tape. And I'm measuring the distance or the size of this square. These squares needs to all be uniform, and the size needs to be uniform on these edges and these sides in order for the aspect ratio to be correct. And it's pretty much right on. I mean, it's 3.5 inches by 3.5 inches. I can't believe it. It's pretty much right on the exact aspect ratio. So we really don't need to make an adjustment to it. However, we did make the horizontal position adjustment. We're going to hit enter to save that. That's all you do. You just hit enter. You don't have to do any degaussing or anything. And vertical size is okay, but what I do want to do is vertical center adjustment. Just a little bit up, 1 to 87. That's it. So that's, I mean, and you're going to have different results depending on what your CRT looks like, but those are pretty easy adjustments. And what you saw me do is completely safe. Now, again, if you have the menu disappear, like we just saw, watch the rest of this video. We'll just see. I don't think there's going to be an issue with what I did to adjust that. So you may need to do that also. Let's check out some of these geometry settings, right? We're going to hit enter on the geometry. And I'm going to go and show you a different pattern that's not on the 240p test suite anymore. So currently we're sitting at a 10 on there. So I don't know whether we're actually going to make any adjustments to that or not. We're trying to make the circles look like different shapes. They look pretty circular. But this can be used. Ooh, that looks like it's good. To fine tune the circle. And you're trying to make these look like circles, not oblong shapes. So you can use that one. If you just press menu, it takes you back to the original setting, okay? If you just don't hit enter, it'll say, you know, like right here it's on 27. Let's see what it looks like. Look at that. That's definitely egg-shaped. That's right, folks. We're going on a journey to deflection down. So you can use that setting to change that linearity. Those two settings. Let's check out trapezoid. But those will help you make the image look better, obviously. Here we are. Let's see what the trapezoid will do. Now watch the screen. It's almost like the top. Watch. See how it looks like that's the old pin phase. The old pin phase, okay? So if your bottom's leaning forward in the image, where the top is, you can fix it with that. That's the old pin phase trapezoid. Now the side pin is obviously pin cushion settings, right? See, that one does more of a wide, larger adjustment. The W is only going to do like the edges a little bit extra. It's like extra touchiness on there, right? So it doesn't do the same spot. It's like just below that on there. Let's see what the balance does. That's going to do even like tighter. It's like tightening those legs out. Oh, there we go. It's really untight. Okay. So actually, we might go a little bit out on that one. See what pair control is. I think this is tilt or something. Yeah, screen tilt. Right. See how it's tilting in case your screen is tilting one way or the other. Fix that up with pair control. Sorry to pick my nose there in front of everybody. Sorry about that. Head niche. Side pin S. Let's see what this one does. This is like just the bottom for the most part. See, that's just the bottom. And a little bit of the top, tip top. It's almost like another linearity control. So that's all those deflection settings. Okay. You have a ton more side pin controls that you could sit there and try to tweak that edge till it looks so straight and beautiful to your heart's desire. And you could do it all from the comfort of the front of the monitor and no risk to damaging it or hurting yourself. Okay. Just do that. When you're done, hit menu once to get out, hit menu again, go back to the main portion here. And you can click the gauze, or I'm sorry, just click the input that you're on. See how I did that? I'm on the deflection menu. I click the input, it goes away. And if I just pull up the regular menu, it'll be fine. I can go back down through the regular menu. Okay. Thanks, Romario. Hey, Alexei. Thank you for coming in today, everybody. We've done pretty good on time. Everything seemed to go well. We're just having too much good luck today. And that's the image. Looks pretty good. Let's see how it looks with something else on it besides the test screen. That's something that anybody should feel fine to fire up a 240p test suite cartridge and check out for yourself. I really wish that this camera would do this monitor justice. I'm betting this is going to just flash like crazy. Maybe not. Yeah, see, all white's really hard to... There we go. If I back it up, but then it starts to look crazy. Yeah, it's so hard, right? That has all to do with lighting. Maybe if I add no help there. That's what we got to go with, like the darker themed games. Hey Steve, do you think those Toshiba AF sets have decent S-video output? Did they look good? And this is interesting. You thinking that you brought that up? I actually thought the image looked a little better in S-video. I don't know why. Normally it wouldn't make sense compared to composite or component even. That's a strange thing to say on that monitor. I didn't know. I didn't know that was really possible. Man, that monitor looks just super sharp now, though. In person, this one. Gradius 3. I think there was something wrong with my Gradius 3. Like it's going to be slow. I don't know if I have that updated version. That is the one. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It is the game that you can have the big slowdown. Somebody made me a hacked copy of it or whatever, a bootleg copy of the fixed ROM one time, but it does have black backgrounds in it a lot, so it's a good one to show on a CRT tube. Maybe... Man, it just looks so good. So yeah, I don't know. The guy wants this one. I have another 14L2, but I think the tube's just got too many hours on it. It looks bloomed. I And I don't think there's really any fix for that, except you're trying to find another tube. That looks cool. I'm trying not to watch it on my screen. I'm trying to see what you do. It's like the slowdown happens. I can't remember. You know, it's like when you get too many objects on the screen and it does that whole like slow down movement. A CRT tube, that's right. Double tube. It's kind of funny you talk about CRT and you forget that it does say cathode ray tube in the actual name itself. Just looks really good. Really, really good. And then again, you got the option card slot. I mean, this one. Hey, Brian. Thanks for coming, Master Safer. Brian. Good to see you here, as always. Finlog. Locke. Thank you for coming. Andre. Thank you for coming. Yeah. I think this one looks really good. Yeah, just right. Like an ATM machine. I didn't think this would look that good. I don't know why. Yeah, it's just got a super sharp image in person with the scan lines do show really, really well. I really like some things that they did on this revision. It's a revision. I mean, the expanded controls on the deflection, as far as those extra controls they give you for, you get double the linearity controls as opposed to the earlier models, and you get twice to 3 or 4 times as many controls to adjust your pin cushion settings. So it's like a win-win on that. It's also got a 600. This is a 600 line tube. It's newer. There's some things I like about the design of the hardware, but there's also some things I don't like as much. I don't like these build outs as much. They're a little bit harder to disassemble than the earlier versions of CRTs and PVMs. But I like the expanded features. I like the menu. I think it's a lot easier to navigate through that menu. Compare that to one of the M series or any of the other kind of... That's one of the easiest service menus to navigate and know what you're doing, right? Because it's labeled right there, the deflection portion. So it's pretty self-explanatory. So I think that it's really, this is probably L2 maybe the best PVM to recommend to somebody as like either the starting PVM or the one that could last you the rest of your life, really. If you could find it, get it, put it, and be like, I'm so happy with this one. I'm not worried about another one. I don't have a lot of space if you're in that kind of situation. Or if you're like me, you get multiple of them and you add them to your stockpile. Hey, Guillermo. And wintertime? No. Wintertime, there's no spare tubes to buy, really. Not new ones. It's been a good few years. I mean, unless somebody finds a storage bin full of them or something that were just sitting around, then no. Because I talked to Pat. Pat used to get them 3 years ago, and it would be like, I mean, I want to say it was like $2,000 back then, $1,500 for a brand new 14-inch BVM tube. 20-inch would probably be like $3,000 back then. That's like 3 years ago. And I know that people still bought them all up. And now I've not seen a new tube for a BVM in a long time. That's what I'm saying. I've got a garage filled with the best CRT hardware you would ever imagine. Just no good CRT. There you go. I said it right that time, Master Safer. There's no tube in those monitors that work. It's every one of the tubes has bad problems. So now your proposition is to take away from used monitors. Like the thing where you go rip an old engine out of an old Harley to put it in a better shell of a Harley. It's just something like that's what you're basically doing. No way. None of us would have the income. Like, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I was growing up, I never had a Sony television. They were too expensive, just the regular televisions. My family had, like, the best thing my family had was a Toshiba. Best thing. Yeah, tubeless. It's like tubeless tires. It doesn't work, unfortunately. It works for the tires, doesn't work for the monitor to go tubeless. I wonder, that's interesting. What if people started doing like they do in, well, that would be dumb, but doing like they do in the arcade, you started installing LCD panels inside the CRT hardware, or without the CRT in it, put that in there. Exactly, PO17, read my mind. Man, well, I've talked with Greg about this. I think there's some good ideas there, but it would take I think it would take a total compilation of things. It would be a super expensive item. It would need the right screen. It would need the right picture processing. So you need to get the good screen. You need to get basically Mike Chi to design the whole guts of the TV. And then the only way to do this is to put it in a box, maybe a smaller version, thinner version of the Trinitron, like not so deep, half as deep, and then have that just a lot of empty space. Use the new screens that you can curve right along one axis, and then you could make a perfect remodel with the right screen processing on it, you know? Could do that. Ah, that looks sharp, even with the bad image on there. That level looks dope. All right, guys. We have any more questions here? I'm about to sign off for the day, and we'll call it a finished restoration here. Yeah. Hey, Stephen Norton. Gatlinburg. Oh, man, I know they've done that. So the funny thing is right in that area of Gatlinburg, next to Gatlinburg, there's a place called Sevierville, and they do some of the biggest arcade machine auctions there quarterly. You can go look up arcade auctions in Tennessee. It's a huge website. I've always wanted to go and try to see what I can find, because they'll have 400 machines they roll through there during an auction. It's like quarterly. It's funny, they have the auction right there. You go get a nice new machine, anything, and they're throwing in LCDs. There's a place local here that has like 3/4 LCDs in all their cabinets. It drives me nuts. And then they don't maintain the machines well, so half the buttons start acting up. Hey, Retro Arts TV. KV29C1B. I'm not familiar with that one off the top of my head by just the model name. But I am looking forward to reviewing more consumer sets on a serious level. Because I mean, just for the heck of it, right? Who cares? It's just, that's what the internet's for. Filled with information that might be suitable for 100 people. Reviews for old TVs. Hey, everybody. I'm going to take off here today. I want to say thank you, everybody, for showing up. Thank you to everybody who supports this channel, especially on Patreon. Literally, that's the only reason I can do all this stuff is because of you guys. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for all the great chat. I really appreciate everybody who comes in, and we've had some great discussions today and some great discussions going on between everybody in there. But that's it. 14L2 done. I will be maybe streaming with you sometime before this week's over. I'm not sure. I have a very busy in-laws in town kind of weekend, you know? So that may keep me till the next stream. And also, I'll tell you, there's not going to be a new video this weekend. I'm thinking the next weekend I'm going to have a big release. And I'm excited to show you that one because it's all about dead BVM tubes, which we've been talking about a little bit today. All about dead BVM tubes. So again, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Hit the like button if you enjoyed today's stream.